Color can be one of those things when you're working with painting or using markers or anything that can be really, really confusing, and you think you've got it and then you put it down and then it doesn't make any sense. The thing I like about Tombow brush, dual brush pens is like this set. You can get a set like these that I'm showing you, and they have bright colors and dark colors, or they have muted colors and pastel colors. So instead of jumping into trying to explain color, let's mix paint. Let's do it the easy way. Let's do it with markers. So the first thing I want you to look at is the difference in the one on the left and the one on the right. The one on the left is pastels, which it's labeled. The one on the right is celebration, but they're more bright colors. But what you're going to see is there's colors mixed in with these that are not light or bright. They're kind of a darker. So this set is cottage, and the one beside it is again the celebration. And what you see is one is darker, the one on the left, than the one on the right that was the celebration. The one on the right this time is brighter, even though there are a couple of darker colors in it. The one on the right this time, or above, is even darker. The one on the bottom is more muted, and the one on the right is much darker than the one on the left. This is going to look really random at first, but then you'll see what I'm doing. I'm just pulling out colors from this set that seem to be the same intensity or have the same, you could say, value to them. Even though they're bright, they still kind of work together. And you see that I'm pulling them from different sets. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. And I'm kind of thumbing through to get some basic colors out. Some purple, some pink, some red, some green. And now I'm going to, that blue is not really working that well with this group because it's bright, but it's not really working. That one is not a whole lot better because it has a different undertone, which we're not really going to go into right now. And then this one looks like it's even better than the other two. So what I'm doing now is kind of placing them together, how they might work in the color. There's a particular color range that you can use. That one's kind of a purple, and now I'm finding a green. So what I want to do is look at these and see which ones work together, but I also want to see what my primaries are. And these primaries came out of two different sets. So red, blue, and yellow are the colors that all colors are made from. So now I have black, white, and gray crayons. Isn't that a little weird? The reason is we're going to talk about tints, tones, and shades back with our markers. A tint is any color with white added to it. So you would get pastels, which is what I'm going to show right now. If I were to add white to any color crayon, then I would get, or any color paint, then I would get a pastel color. And a pastel color is basically a tint. So these markers, for the most part, are pastels, is what they're labeled, and they are the colors, basic colors with white added to them. And I'm just doing what's called a color swatch here, and I'm using all the colors in this set of pastels. And there's a reason that we're doing it this way, and you're going to see in just a second that these colors do not actually work that great as if they have only white added to them. The blue and the yellow look more like brights than they do pastels. So that's my white swatch. Now I'm going to move on with the gray crayon as if I were adding it to red, blue, and yellow. And pure color is actually called a hue, H-U-E. Everything else is a tint, tone, or shade. And we're going to see what happens with this. Now this selection of markers is the cottage set, and they have much closer to a muted or a gray undertone. But again, you're going to see some of the markers in this set really have something besides a gray going on. And you can see as I'm pointing at, they look kind of not like they have a gray added to them. So that would be a green with a gray added to it. This would be a blue with a gray added to it. And I keep going. And again, this is not a problem with the Tombow markers. It's just getting your eye used to seeing how color works together. That one really does not look like it has gray, and this one certainly doesn't look like it has gray added to it. So once you get used to looking at colors, you can see immediately this one has gray in it, this one has white in it. Then you start being able to pick out the colors that work together. Now we're going to look at shade, and shade is black mixed with any color, pure black, and it's red, blue, or yellow, or any of the other colors that you mix that you get, you know, red and yellow and you get orange, and blue and yellow and you get green, that sort of thing. So this is the set that's called Boho, and it seems to have the most saturated color as far as having black in the undertone. And when I say undertone, I mean it just, you can see that there's a difference from the white yellow to the supposed gray yellow to this yellow that has the black in it that I just did a few minutes ago. And when you're working with this, I'm not saying that, well, you can't use white and gray colors together, or you can't use colors that are, you can't use shades and tones or shades and tints. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying let's get your eye used to seeing color besides, oh, that's pink and that's magenta and that's orange and that's, you know, coral. Because all of these amazing colors that we have gray, white, or black. They also have a warm or a cool. We're not even getting near warm and cool today. We're just going to pay attention to the tint, tone, and the shade. And you can see that there's a couple on here that really don't look like they should have a black undertone, especially that top one. And then that blue one at the bottom. So what we just did is look at the individual selections or marker containers and just kind of did an eyeball of, are these colors tints or tones or shades or what's going on? And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And every packet of these markers has a tint, a tone, a shade, a warm, a cool, and that's great. But what I want to do now is look at these packets of markers and pull out the colors from the different packets that are shades, that are gray or muted, that are white, which would be the tint. We also have a level of brights that we didn't even talk about, and then the black. So I've made an entirely new swatch sheet. So these are color swatches, and I'm pulling out the colors. Like these three came from the cottage set, and they're definitely tones because they have a gray undertone. Well, this gray, which is definitely obviously a gray, has come from the set that is the pastels. Now this pastel gray will work with the pastel grays because it has white, a lot of white mixed with gray, but it also works with the gray or muted because it has even more undertone. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the white, and the white, remember, is the pastel colors. So there are some in here that are definitely pastel, but then there are some that just don't really look pastel, and this is a pink that is actually from that set, but this is a pink that is not from that set. It's just a random pink that I found, not in any set, and it's almost a pinky orange, so kind of a coral, but it works with the pastel or the white set. And yellow is really tricky. Neither of these yellows do I feel like they have enough white in them, but they both came in the pastel set, which is randomness. I'm going to look at the bright colors now, and bright colors with paint are a little different than they are with, well, actually they're a lot different than they are with markers. But in this marker set, there is a set called Celebration, and these are pretty bright colors. So not necessarily white or gray or black or anything added to them. They're just really vibrant, and I like the way they look, so I wanted to include a bright section here. Now, honestly, because of my computer, my video, they're not showing up quite as bright as they actually are, but you get the idea when you put them in line between the white and the gray, and then in a minute with the black. The last one we're going to look at in this manner, I should say, is the Bohemian or the Boho paint set or marker set, sorry. And there's a couple that are going to come out of the cottage, because remember, I'm pulling the colors out of these sets of markers that look like they have and they fit in this category. So this would be any color added, black added to any color in the color wheel, or otherwise, in this case, it's just markers. And it really makes it easier to show the variation with the gray, white, bright, and black when we're using the markers. And I love the Tombow markers for that. And one of the things I really appreciate about the Tombow markers is each set gives you somewhat of a mixture of a tone, tint, or a shade. And again, shade being black, tone being the gray, and tint being the white. So this is just as if you were taking a crayon, a gray, white, or black crayon, and adding it to a hue or another color. And even on this, you're going to see that there are some colors that just don't quite work well, even in this set, which is kind of weird. Okay, let's look at one of the easiest ways to decide if you have a tone, a tint, or a shade, meaning a shade being a color mixed with black, tone being a color mixed with gray, or a tint being a color mixed with white. So what I do is I pull out all of the same hue or color, like all of the greens. I've pulled out all of the greens, and I'm not putting them in any order. I just grab them, and I kind of put the lighter ones at the beginning and kind of the mid-tones or mid-colors, and then I'm working my way down. Kind of, I did that. And what I see when I do this is I'm able to pull out the colors from this that would have the gray in them, the white in them, or the black in them. And if you do every color this way, pull out all the blues, pull out all the greens, all the reds, all the pinks, however you want to do them this way, and then you'll have a color swatch of each of the hues, each of the colors or hues, and you'll be able to pick out which one has the gray in it, which one has the black in it, and which one has the white in it. So this is 3 different ways of looking at what colors you have and how you want them to work together.